Hey guys, welcome to Monsters of Tabletop. My name's Travis, and in this video I'm going to talk about my top 5 tips to running a successful Dungeons & Dragons campaign. First and foremost is Session 0. A lot of people talk about running a Session 0, and there's really no more important thing for your preparation. If you get everybody together and you can decide on what type of game you want to play. Do you want to play a role play heavy game, a combat heavy game, an exploration game? What do your players want to be? You know, do you want to have a party full of bards, or do you want to make sure that you've got at least one cleric to do healing? And then from there you can say, what kind of setting do we want? Do we want to play high fantasy setting like Faerun? Do we want to do something that's a little more magic-y tech like Eberron? Or do you want to do something that's gritty and harsh like Dark Sun, or something completely different altogether in Homebrew? Session 0 is a great way to get all those things out on the table so that you and your players know what to expect. Personally, I don't run a Session 0 per se. We have a Discord server and we have a separate chat channel, and we discuss our Session 0 information over the span of weeks before a new campaign starts. So, you know, we have a lot of time to think about things and prepare things, and it gives me more time to base major plot points in the campaign around the players' backgrounds and things like that. Number 2 is to keep everyone engaged. This can be very difficult when you've got, you know, people taking their phones out at the table, or if you're using D&D Beyond, you know, everyone's got a laptop or a tablet out. It's easy for them to, you know, start scrolling through Reddit, looking at Facebook and Twitter. A good way to keep everyone engaged is to call on players. Personally, if I see that someone is not paying attention or isn't invested in the current encounter, whether it be a combat encounter or puzzle, some kind of skill challenge or roleplay encounter, I'll say, hey man, what is your character doing right now? What do they think about this? And I try to get their input and draw them into the scene. And more often than not, that is going to pull them into the scene. And secondly, to go with this is knowing your players, knowing what they like. Not every player is looking for crunchy combat. Some of them want the roleplay. Some of them want to solve puzzles. They want to be mentally stimulated. So you got to try and pepper in things here and there to give particular players a moment in the spotlight doing what they really like to do. And if they get that moment an hour later in a different encounter, they'll be more apt to engage in that and support another player's spotlight moment. Number 3 is to know the basics. And what I mean by this is really how ability scores work. How strength, dexterity, intelligence, constitution, wisdom, and charisma are all considered and factored into doing skill checks. And once you have a basic understanding of what they do, it makes it a lot easier to call for those improvised skill checks when your players throw you a curveball. You need to know if there's a 10-foot ledge. Normally you would say, make an athletics check. This is based on strength, but your rogue decides, well, I want to try and run up the wall and do cool parkour jump off the wall and grab onto the ledge. Well, I would say, all right, well, that's going to be acrobatics, because that sounds like a dexterity thing, and acrobatics is the physical skill check that goes along with the dexterity. So if you know what each one does, you can really cater the roles to players to give them the best chance of success or the best chance to do something interesting, whether it is success or failure. Number 4 is being adaptable and being able to improvise, whether it be coming up with NPC names or village names or doing crazy voices. A couple of ways that you can do this. The best way, in my experience, is to have lists. Have a list of NPC names. You can further break those lists down into like dwarven names, elven names, orcish names, depending on the NPC that you're going to put in front of your players, because they are going to ask that NPC's name 99.9% of the time. On top of that, like I mentioned before, you need to be able to improvise your skill checks. You need to be able to come up with, on the fly, what a player needs to do in order to get their desired result or attempt to get a desired result. And so being able to improvise and think on your feet is going to get you a very long way in running tabletop games. Finally, topping out this list at number 5 for me is the rule of cool. This doesn't mean that none of the other rules matter. It just means that sometimes you can throw away the other rules if you want something cool to happen, or if it's going to be a really enjoyable thing for everybody at the table. Normally, you're not going to be able to run up and throw a lasso around a dragon's foot and fly into the air with it and climb up its leg. That's going to be a nearly impossible skill challenge to do. But if you cut some corners here and there and you give your players a little bit of freedom, maybe throw out one athletics check or don't make them do a grapple check, make it so that it's easier for this really cinematic, cool moment to happen. Your players are going to appreciate it and your games are definitely going to be better for it. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you got something out of it. Maybe you got some inspiration for your own campaign, a little food for thought, hopefully something that can help you better your game and the enjoyment of your game for your players. Thanks a lot. And remember, we aren't the bad guys, we just play them.